Hey, how's it, guys? I want to start off by thanking my 4 new subs. Unfortunately, I haven't yet received the notifications of who you are. I'm sorry that I can't mention you by name, but please know that I'm thanking you. Thank you. So by now, I'm sure that you've gathered that I'm not a professional. I'm just a normal person who actually understands the chronology of what we've discovered and how we use what we know to better understand our world. As I've been gathering information about the flat earth and its followers, I've made a note of many points that I've wanted to cover. But it ended up being too much to cover in one video, so I decided to divide it into parts. But right now I'm not sure how many parts there will end up being. We'll see how it goes. So as I was thinking about all these points I made that I wanted to cover and how to present them, things got a bit complicated. So I decided to start at the beginning. In this video, I just want to cover a few people who made it impossible to ignore the facts of our surroundings. Although there were people prior to him, the first person I want to talk about is Pythagoras. The Greeks are renowned for their mathematics. Most of the people I'm going to mention were mathematicians and astronomers. They are the ones who started understanding that maths can be a very important tool for figuring things out. Pythagoras was one of the first people to put forth that the earth is a sphere. But of course, we better know him for his theorem, which is, in a right-angled triangle, the square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the square of the other two sides. And now, in today's maths and physics, we know that calculating triangles helps us calculate lots and lots of other things. So he was an integral part of grasping and understanding and using maths. He was also able to influence other people into thinking that the earth is a sphere, and one of those people was Aristotle, although all these people still maintained that the earth was the center of everything. Next, we have somebody called Aristarchus, who also held the notion that the earth is a sphere, with the notion that the earth is the center of everything, although I couldn't find out exactly what he did to show that the earth is a sphere. Now we come to the main guy, the guy that even had the foresight to calculate the circumference of the earth, and that guy was Eratosthenes. It was a basic, simple observation which he made. He realized that on the solstice, the sun was directly above his head, but it wasn't directly above his friend's head a couple of 100 kilometers away. So they did the calculations, and he came up with the number 25,000 miles. And today we know that he wasn't far off. We got the number 24,901 miles, and I'm sure that Eratosthenes would have been very happy to know that he wasn't off by much. That was in 240 BC. And in 240 BC, no one was really interested in investigating the shape of the earth until we get to Ptolemy, who lived in the first hundreds AD. Ptolemy was a mathematician and an astronomer and a geographer, but he was also a geocentrist. He held firm that the earth was the center of the universe, and the sun and the wandering stars all revolved around the earth. And his ideas stood for a very long time before someone came along to try and debunk the geocentrist idea. Right, and now we come to the fun part of physics history, where people started catching on that the earth is indeed a sphere, and they started getting serious about finding out about what's going on in the skies. And we get to Copernicus, and he is one of the people who prompted me to do this video. I heard a flat earther say, all of a sudden Copernicus said that the earth is a sphere. And I just want to tell flat earthers that in science, nothing really happens all of a sudden. Everyone builds their work on the works of people who came before them. So Copernicus, using the works of the previous people, he built on that, and he was able to theorize that not only is the earth a sphere, but it is spinning on its own axis and revolving around the sun. He published his paper in 1543. From the time of Ptolemy to the time of Copernicus, that was 1400 years without progress. After Copernicus, a few decades passed before the next big thing, and that was the invention of the telescope by Hans Lippershey in 1608. Now we get to Galileo. Galileo was a mathematician and an astronomer. He picked up on the telescope, improved on the design, and used it to make grand observations like discovering Jupiter's moons and rings of Saturn. Another interesting thing about Galileo was that he was very interested in the scientific method. You know, the one where you don't start off with a conclusion and force the facts to fit your conclusion. The one where theories are tried and tested and retested and tested again, and after many, many tests, maybe a conclusion is derived. Yeah, Galileo was very interested in the scientific method. After Galileo, obviously a few years passed, but now we get to the man who was able to break through some barriers, and he is my favorite influences of modern physics, and that is Isaac Newton, or should I say Sir Isaac Newton. A few years ago in South Africa, the university students were trying to decolonize science, and the girl used an example that Newton was just sitting there and he saw the apple fall, and then he convinced everyone of gravity. You know, Newton wasn't just sitting there. That didn't happen all of a sudden. He was sitting there contemplating motion. He was actually trying to find a way to figure out why things are attracted to the earth the way they are. And seeing the apple fall, if that really happened, was a luck for him. It was almost like, this is why things fall. The earth has a gravitational force, and he was able to theorize that in his paper. He published his paper in 1687. So this is just to reiterate that in science, nothing happens all of a sudden. All these guys built their works, or should I say expanded on the guys who came before them. Okay, and Newton was able to theorize his laws of motion. And I'm sure all of us know these laws, except maybe primary school children who haven't been shown the laws yet. And the first law is any object in a state of motion will remain in motion unless an external force is acted on it. The second law is force is equal to mass times acceleration. And the third law is for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. All of these laws are still used today on the scales that they were meant for. Newton knew that there was an attractive force. He was able to theorize it and give it a name. If it was done by somebody else, maybe they would have given it a different name, but the name it was given is gravity. And no matter how much flat earthers fight and argue and try and dispel it, gravity is a thing. The last person I want to cover in this video is Einstein. Einstein was able to pick up on Newton's work, and he was able to expand that theory of gravity to include the theory of gravitational attraction and the theory of general relativity. We were able to use his theories to find planets and discover black holes and things like that. So you see, in science, nothing happens all of a sudden. Most of these people I mentioned, they expanded on the works of the people who came before them. So it doesn't start off with a conclusion. It goes where the evidence lead. And if it wasn't Newton, it would have been somebody else. And sure, they might have given it another name, but we would still have what we now know as gravity. We have it. The earth has gravity. And all these people prior to Einstein and Newton showed that the earth was a sphere, and they were going to work towards showing that the earth is a sphere. And today we have technology which is based on a spherical earth. It works because the earth is a sphere. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate all the subs and all the views. Please let me know in the comments if I can tweak anything, or if you have suggestions to help me make my content better. I would appreciate it. Enjoy. We only have one life. See you next time. Bye.